welcome to our listeners, welcome to our viewers, welcome to today's edition of To The Point. It's Wednesday, the 11th day of March, 2026. Listeners, viewers via social media platforms, let me say a hearty welcome to you also. Thanks for being with us this morning. And with us this morning, of course, we have the MP, Honorable Readhead, with us this morning. Good morning to you, sir. Welcome. How are you doing this morning?
Thank you, GT. Morning and good morning to you and your listeners, both home and abroad. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you know, it's always a pleasure having you, of course, on the program. It's one of those times when we get to open up a wee bit, yes, to our listeners and viewers out there. And you being the PRO for the National Democratic Congress, we'll talk a little party talk.
Sure.
If we can say it in that way. A little party talk, of course, issues that are surrounded. Today we're going to do that a little bit different. Maybe during we wrap up the first 15 minutes. We're going to open up the lines a wee bit for listeners and viewers this morning. The option of, sometimes they do have that questions that they have, from time to time they may want to have. And sometimes that final segment that we do offer, there's always not enough time to get all those questions in. Yeah. So for you listeners and viewers over there who have those questions pending that you may like to ask on Readhead, feel free to do so. I'm assuming it will be all party related, general happenings within the governance of the country. You could feel free to do so. We'll be on that segment. Let's kick the segment off this morning. The constituency opportunities. What's going on within the constituency of St. George's Northwest? You being the MP.
Northeast,
Northeast.
Right.
Northeast. Northwest. So Northeast. Slip of the tongue.
Things are happening in Northwest as well, just from the government perspective. But certainly in St. George Northeast, we are doing our best to continue as MP and my office. We are involved in a number of struggles throughout the constituency. We're involved in a number of bringing about solutions to problems, from healthcare, agriculture, small business, social concerns, in some instances land dispute, bringing peace, building homes, building bathrooms, toilets. We are involved in many things. Fire happens, we're there getting the information, doing what we have to do to make sure that we serve the vast majority of people in St. George Northeast. The constituency continues to showcase its strength and durability. I must commend the young men throughout the constituency. So far, at least under my tenure, I have not seen major acts of violence, with the exception of one when Brown was killed by Snug Corner. Yeah. But that was more gang-related, external from the constituency, while he himself, in a sense, had a target based on what the information surfaced. But by and large, the majority of them, they are either working, they are either trying their best to survive, so to speak, and to build something for themselves and their family. We definitely need to do more to help them. We are working on some programs, hopefully by June 2026. It would be launched on a government level to be able to roll out a better response mechanism, particularly to building out small business enterprises, and hopefully we can support some of the young men. Some of the young men need the support too, because it's one thing to say just give somebody some resources and let them go and start their business, but they need guidance to make sure that the business is maintained. And so we're thinking about how we can work with the Youth Empowerment Agency to be able to roll out a very comprehensive policy to be able to build a lot of the small businesses. Particularly, I'm looking at a young man who does pottery and so on currently in the constituency. We are hopeful that we would have the resources to assist him and to transform his business into what it should be. Right now, he is looking for transport and some additional equipment which will be able to build out and enhance his capacity as a small business or as an entrepreneur. And so things of that nature, we want to do more of that. Of course, they would have children, you have wife, you have etc., to be able to take care of. And so we want to really empower people by giving them that hand up so that they can stand on their own 2 feet.
There's always been that concern. I always wanted to ask you this, because, you hear those side conversations from time to time from individuals in terms of your representation, how you represent the people of St. George's Northeast. How would you rate your of course your representation of the people, sir? Is it going into 4 years? Not fully 4, but it's going into 4 years now since you're being the of course represented for. Are you satisfied with the way that you are representing St. George's Northeast thus far?
Well, 4 years on.
The question you hear people like, oh, well, the MP is no longer part of the full government, as some folks may say.
Right.
How your representation for the people.
Well, 4 years on, I think we have done a pretty good job. There is always room for improvement, in my humble opinion, and therefore, for me, I still think that we need to ensure that the community structure is sustained. We have done a good job in building out a lot of community groups, building out community activities, and so far returning St. George Northeast to its glory days. We are hopeful that once the Good Hope playing field is lit next, we completed the Willis playing field in terms of the lighting. So we have Tempe, Willis, Good Hope, and Vendome is being worked on. So once those are completed, the whole question of how the Northeast was in terms of mass sporting activities throughout, community activities, we are going to return to those days very soon. And so we've been working over the last 3 years or so to ensure that we could return that. I can't speak to people's own view and perception.
Yeah.
I can only speak to what I know we are doing, and I am confident that it is the right thing. The 4-point mandate that I went into the seat with, that is what we are fulfilling, right? We are focusing on government infrastructure in the constituency, so we're building out essentially the medical stations. We have upgrade coming for Snow Corner Medical Station, having upgraded the Good Hope Medical Center, one of the first medical centers in Grenada after the last general election that was done was the Good Hope Medical Station, and that is because I personally, as Member of Parliament, partnered with the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Health to be able to renovate and fix that center. We are doing a good job, at least from a flood mitigation standpoint. I have an initial report in terms of how we've been able to do that. What we are transitioning into right now is to do or deal with a lot of the bypass roads throughout the constituency. So we are going to start the Chantilly, the connection from Lamode to Tempe Hills Avice. We are close to starting that. We are close to completing the road by Roger Barbecue, which connects from Mount Parnassus back to St. Paul's Main Road. We are looking at the Stones Bolio area, because as the Nawasa project continues, it is ongoing. As it continues and it comes down from Monkuma, we are going to need access that is going to provide some kind of bypass when the main road is dug up. And so we have done a pretty good job in intervening and mapping it out. I personally worked with the Royal Grenada Police Force Traffic Department, and I want to say hats off to them. I think they're doing an excellent job to make sure that we could plan this, and when the Nawasa project started, that we at least have effective routes. We completed the Mount Lindsay Road widening, the bridge in Boca. This was critical because for many years, I've spoken about it prior, but for many years that place was a narrow channel. It caused deaths at least on 2 occasions, one certainly confirmed, accidents among other things. And so we are satisfied that from a macro standpoint, we have been doing a pretty good job. On the micro standpoint, there are some people still with challenges. I would be the first to openly say that, because there's nothing to hide about that. I am not one to go and talk people's business, so I wouldn't specifically state some of those issues and who, etc. But just to say that on a micro level, I think we have a lot more to do with money management, financial management. How do we take the little that we have or get, whether it is through a small paycheck, and build out on it? We are cut out on the gambling in some instances. Right? So we have some work to do there with from a people standpoint. We have done a great job in terms of training. I don't have the exact number with me this morning, but in terms of at the constituency level, in terms of the amount of support that we have given for education, it is tremendous, right? And it is in collaboration with the Ministry of Community and Social Development and at the MP's office that we really push that assistance. We start in the year with it every single year since we came in, and we have been able to successfully continue, in a sense, ensuring that we promote young people's empowerment without all this program hassle and so on. You know, some people just want to pursue a public relations course. They're pursuing something at Grays. They're pursuing something at the UE Open Campus with some of the professional development sessions. And so we just assist as best as we could.
Okay. You know, sir, cost of living is another topical conversation you hear all around Grenada these days. You know, the cost. You go to the various supermarkets and the cost of it, you know, everything that folks need on a regular basis seems to be costing more from time to time. Are you happy with the level in terms of how government is dealing with, you know, in terms of bringing that curve down? I know it's not much government could do because we have a very high importation bill. You know, most of what we consume, regular individuals, we consume, it's imported. And very little, of course, sometimes we barely use what is even produced in Grenada. You know, the cost of living, your take on it in terms of how government is looking at it. What plans would we see in the upcoming, you know, year or within this particular year as we stand in terms that would create that downward curve in the cost of living?
Right. Well, the policy unit in the Ministry of Finance is one task to look at suggestions that we can undertake. The government is presently waiving VAT on at least 20 food items. We have reduced the petrol tax. It was about $5.50. I think we brought it down to about $3.50 thereabout. Right. We have also sought to work with a more what I would say is driving the whole question of solar, the use of solar in particular for now, in terms of how we expect energy costs to go down. This is something that is actively being worked on. It's not going to happen overnight, and so the government also is actively pursuing a geothermal energy project. This is something that takes 7 to 10 years normally, and so it's a long project. In fact, Dominica is just completing theirs, and so over time Dominica is going to see a reduction in their energy costs because geothermal energy is from the earth itself and does not require, in a sense, this question of barrel of oil, that sort of thing. Overall, what the government is seeking to do is to improve our local capacity to produce. We believe that if we are able to produce more of our food that is consumed, then the whole question of the high importation bill and the negative externalities that come with them, we would be able to reduce it. We are not trying to promote a closed market because, in principle, I think there's only so much our local producers may be able to produce at a given time, both for feeding the nation and also for export. And so because we're in a global village, we definitely need to import and we need to export. So it's a balancing act. But the Ministry of Economic Development, Minister Lennox Andrews, is the one task to really pay particular attention to the economic situation. The Ministry of Finance collaborates, and the Cabinet of Grenada will make further decisions. But the Cabinet can, at any time, once the situation is getting out of hand, because it is being monitored, as I mentioned, by the Ministry of Finance policy unit, to change policy and do at any given time where necessary. But I want to caution, because it is not simply a case of just cutting the taxes, right? So that is not a policy that is going to be successful in an inflated external environment, meaning that if you rely on externalities to factor what your costs will be, you just reducing your taxes locally is not going to help, because what you may find is that when the price goes too high, and you reduce the tax, your collections from a revenue standpoint will significantly drop, because some kind of thing, this product is not available, XYZ, and so on. So you have to manage that. I think what we need more of right now, which we are doing, is to bolster the productive sectors. We have our first national hatchery. I want to specify and stress that while there are other private hatcheries, this is a state-owned hatchery that the government of Grenada, this administration, is building to be able to improve our capacity to produce chicks and eggs, etc. Right? This is significant because if you notice, when Christmas time comes around, egg is something that is almost automatically scarce. Right? It shows that our capacity to consume is far greater than we are able to produce and import. So that is something. So we are now doing that, and we are focused on ensuring that we enhance that capacity. The question of bringing in the hybrid animals, that is something that we believe engaging in a breeding program is going to help bolster the whole question of production of meat, right? Beef, cattle, sheep, goat, pigs, that sort of thing. So what we are doing is strategic. It is focused around ensuring that we build our local capacity to be able to produce food. When times like these do occur, we are able to offset and mitigate in terms of high costs, input costs.
We let me ask you this final one before we take the break. We know the state of affairs in the world today, sir. But there were the wars that are taking place, the United States, Israel, Iran, and stuff. I suddenly saw a release that was put out by government, in terms of that. It is going to be concerning in time to come if it prolongs longer than it is. Government's take on it, from your point of view. Right. Is it something that government is getting their mindset prepared for, just in case? Because there's going to be that trickle-down effect in the Caribbean. I'm not saying it's going to affect Grenada alone, but there's going to have that trickle-down effect within the Caribbean in time to come. Right. We know with the cost of oil and so forth, the price are going up. What is government's or some of the plans they're thinking to, just in case we get to that point?
Right. Well, of course, it has begun to hit home because our embassy in Dubai did express some concerns. We still have concerns because the zone itself is highly unstable, and as you know, rockets, drones, all sorts of things are pelting all over the place. And so, for us, our priority and focus is primarily on Grenadians. Their safety there. And so the release essentially from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which the National Democratic Congress backs and supports 100%, is expressing the whole question of caution, expressing the whole question of concern, and for all Grenadians who may be in the region at this time to exercise tremendous caution and to focus primarily on mitigation strategy, just in case, or should in case you have to return home for your own safety. What we will encourage Grenada to do is, look, war is very complex. I am not interested to get in the ideological conversation now, but it certainly will have negative impacts and implications, particularly for the region. I think all leaders of the region have agreed that it will. My concern now as a citizen of Grenada is that how will this affect or further affect the whole question of cost of living? We already operate in a disjointed supply chain as a result of a number of policy decisions globally. And so the challenge for us is, how do we maintain our growth and trajectory with all of these uncertainties? And so as government, I know the Ministry of Finance, as mentioned, is as the policy unit and is always actively looking at it. We'll make recommendation, we'll make observations time and again, and as responsible as we can be, we, as within our state, will make policy decisions that can be able to protect, safeguard our citizens wherever. You want to take the opportunity to, again, highlight the evacuation plan that we have for our citizens in Cuba as a result of the ongoing difficulties there. And so, essentially, globally, throughout the world, there are concerns for us in terms of safety for Grenadians, wherever they are. And so what we want to continue to express is solidarity with our Grenadians living in territories where instability is at a high point.
Okay. And we due for a break. Let's take when we come back. As we mentioned before, of course, we just had that short talk this morning, a little longer than we anticipated, but we're going to have a bit of an open segment this morning, a bit of engagement with our listeners and viewers. You do have those questions or two you may like to have the MP. I beg of you to be brief with it so that we can accommodate as many callers as possible. When we come back after the break, of course, that segment will start to be open for you listeners and viewers. We'll be right back. Don't touch it out.
Looking to shop online from your favorite stores like Amazon and Shein with GP.
Grenada from April 4th to the 6th, 2026. A decision you'll never regret. This isn't just any destination. It's where passion meets performance. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games, hosted at the iconic Kirani James Athletic Stadium in St. George's, under the theme, Passion Drives Performance. The best of the Caribbean's junior athletes will compete in electrifying track and field competition. Organize now and be part of an experience like no other, where talent, passion, and perseverance come alive on the land of 100,000 jab. Feel the passion, celebrate the performance, and create memories that will last a lifetime in pure Grenada, the land of warmth, spirit, and unstoppable energy. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games. Whenever happy to see me, nobody is strangers, one big family.
My name is Dr. Abigail Noel, and I am the head of department at the Accident and Emergency Department. One thing I love about Mount Sinai is their spirit of collaboration. They came in with ideas that have transformed our department in real time. The implementation of ID bands for every patient that comes through the emergency department. That has decreased patient errors. They have implemented defibrillators on every ward. Thus far, 128 staff members have been trained in defibrillator use. The huddle system is basically small meeting with all team members. It improves communication between staff members as well as with patients. This transformation means everything to the emergency department and by extension the health system of Grenada.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to our viewers once again. MP Ron Readhead, welcome back. As promised, this morning we're going to have a bit of engagement with our listeners and viewers over there. So you have the opportunity to call in question or two, and I beg of you to be very brief with your question, please. I know sometimes you may have lots to say, but be brief so, of course, we could get a response from the MP in terms of your question. We do have our first caller. I guess we lost that caller there. 435-2041, 435-2041. That's the number. If you do want to ask a question or two, feel free to do so. We do have another caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning, welcome.
Yeah, morning quickly, and morning to the most honorable Ron Readhead. I was listening to they had this march against women against violence, etc. Of course, and most honorable Peter David addressed the gathering, and also Deacon. Now, I didn't hear him talk. I didn't hear Deacon. He is in control. He didn't talk about the laws to strengthen against violence against women, right? The registry, we need that how do you call the registry again?
Sex offenders
registry.
Right, we need that. Also, this idea of 8 months is a prison term. All these things, he talked, but he didn't address those things, and I am upset about it. Right? So I think Deacon needs to look these things, take these things into consideration. And don't forget, the party color is gold, not yellow, and he should bring it back in your cabinet. So thank you, and I'm telling you these things. We need to get a registry, because people, every time there's a problem with this killing, you're hearing people talking about it, you have a big fuss and a hype, and nothing done afterwards. Those laws need to be looked after, and Deacon didn't address it.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate your call. Of course.
Well, the Honourable Prime Minister did. Yeah, the Honourable Prime Minister did address this repeatedly and extensively in many interviews. I think the issue comes down to what we have argued. That by itself is not the answer. And the sex offenders registry in a small society is something. I personally went when I served in the Senate many moons ago to a conference organized by the Canadian government, and the concern is that implementing something in Grenada will invite, or how do you prevent vigilante justice to be managed? Because if you serve your time for killing somebody's daughter, or they're stopping the father, the brother, some other family member to come and just pursue you once they know where you are, they're tracking you, etc. It makes it a little easier, and so we have to always, you can't fight fire with fire, so we always have to look at it from that angle. But I think a registry of information where you can request the information is something that we should seek to focus on, primarily when they come out. The other thing is the Honourable Prime Minister have spoken about criminal justice reform in the past. This is not something that we could just get up in the morning and resolve, and therefore what we are working towards is a more comprehensive recommendations from different groups, not just from the government, but from different groups, genuine recommendations that could solve this problem.
We do have another caller. Caller via WhatsApp. You are live. Good morning. Welcome.
Pleasant good morning, GT.
Good morning to you.
Pleasant good morning, Mr. Ron Readhead.
Morning.
Just want to throw out something here this morning to the MP. I saw yesterday the opponent of he for the Northeast was on, and again from day one he still keeps saying there's less visibility of you within the constituency. However, I remember we had to vote for Mr. Clement on 2 occasions, and even for that MP. And we never, not MP, but candidate, we never had the opportunity to have people on the ground coming through the St. George's Northeast as the way as how it has been done with you guys, right? I'm just stating something obvious here. And I believe that has to do with your leadership, because on social media and other places, I see your leadership on the ground a lot. Now we now seeing these things happening due to the fact that there is a change since you all came in June 2022. And to me, I see the other side trying it, but I don't sure if it's something that will go along. Also, MP, I want to bring something out to you, and I hope that you're all taking this into consideration. I know you have the Willis Road to get done, and it's on the calendar, and we've been calling for it for the longest while. But I hope that when you're all choosing contractors to do this work, that you all get contractors that are able to pay the subcontractors and not relying on every time our money have to disburse to then make payment, because when they're in problem like that, the work tend to go longer than it's supposed to. Look at Reno. Reno never have no problem in overlagging in work. Kenny Shocking don't have any problem in overlagging in work, whether it's private or government. So I'm just saying this is something that you all should look into and ensure that when you all get people, the people have the amount of backing to pay the subcontractors. Because I have a brother right now who's kind of going through that kind of a problem with the big contractor, and they're saying, oh, the government hasn't released money yet, but that contract, I know it's under the UK SIF, and it has nothing to do with the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much. Respond to the caller?
Yeah. Well, very, very much well said. As it relates to the whole question of the contract, so I don't know if I should give an update, but I would probably leave a comprehensive update from the Ministry of Infrastructure, the Willis project. While we did announce that we have formed the 3-man team, we do have to make a slight change because one, as mentioned, of the main contractors, he is unable to continue with the original arrangement, and so we have a new contractor in principle. I am not at liberty to say that we're going to now start at the X, the Y, but I would leave it up to the Ministry of Infrastructure to speak to it once the opportunity arises, but more information will be had on when we are starting, and that contractor should not have this issue of not being able to pay subcontractors.
Okay. We have someone posting a question via the WhatsApp. They're saying, and they're saying, please ask the minister, does Canada gets to dictate our policies? That's one of
right. In relation to the I assume they're referring to the sex offenders registry.
Yeah.
So no, it was just a conference that we went to organized by them, and essentially the discussions were had from Caribbean perspective, not only Grenada, and so we were part of it. Essentially, the thinking is that in larger societies it will be more successful. In smaller societies you may have some negative impacts that could cause problems, and people may just go on vigilante purposes just without even having accurate information. Remember also, if you go and attempt to develop, a man is guilty until proven, that's one. And if you go, unless you know for a fact, and justice is not served, because we can't pretend, we can't take justice into our own hands, and having that kind of information will do a number of things. It will also violate people's rights, so we have to look at it from a comprehensive standpoint. A sex offenders registry is important for the people who need to have it for surveillance.
Yeah.
Right? Don't get me wrong, this is important. So when a man is exiting the prison and you know he has a history like we have seen recently, there needed to be a tighter surveillance on that particular individual, whether he has mental challenges, whatever the thing is. So some mechanism and apparatus should be there, not just the registry. The registry by itself is not going to fix the problem and prevent it. So that's the point that I want to get across.
Yeah. It's not like anyone could just go up and say, Honorable Ron Readhead is living this, so I can go visit him and and have whatever confrontation I need.
That's
I understand it from that point. We do have another caller. Caller, your life. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Telesford, and good morning to your guests. Every time I hear this goodly gentleman who has become a staple on your program, I'm yet confused on what's his real purpose. Is he the spin doctor of a party? Because he's a member of parliament, but he's not a minister. But he's a man giving reports, everything, even down to technical details on government projects. Keep it up, because you're doing a real nice job, I must indeed tell you. But here's my deal. You were elected by the people of this country as a member of parliament. Can you give us one case where you, in your legislative responsibility, have promoted a law in this country to guarantee the better functioning of the state of Grenada? And there are many. I'll give you a couple just to remind you. The people with disabilities in this country, according to Section 32, subsection 3, especially those with visual discapacity, have a right to a secret ballot. And that has been pending for years. Nobody is doing anything about that. And you can't say I don't know about it. What are you doing about that? The rights of people with disabilities generally as expressed in the United Nations Convention of 2008. Nothing is being done about that. The updating of the laws with only a whole load of talk. Tell me what one thing for your legislative agenda as a member of parliament in this country, and leave the technical work to the people of the Ministry of Infrastructure, etc. Thank you very much for what it's worth, Mr. Telesford. Do have a nice day, will you?
Thank you, sir. Have a good word to yourself.
Yeah, Brother Rulu, thank you very much for your comments, but it's your opinion in terms of what I should be able to speak on as opposed to what I can actually come and speak on. Now, as it relates to the very salient point you raised, the right to a secret ballot, particularly those visually impaired, I agree with you, but this requires electoral reform. So the Representation of Peoples Act, in addition to maybe some additional legislation, has to be piloted. But I dare say what we need is proper dialogue and discussion. We don't have to go far. I assume that there are territories or nations that do have examples that we can use, and we can work with them in terms of amending the law. These things are very costly because you have to hire someone as the person to be able to lead the work, to bring the recommendation to the necessary stakeholders. Secondly, I would just give you one example of a legislation that I did pioneer. That it had to do with the removing the lien for NAWASA on your property, so that it will not hold back particularly landlords and people, tenants who abuse their chance at an apartment, run up a bill, and then when the landlord has to move on, they can't move on because this bill is either in the tenant's name, and therefore it is a lien on the property, and they wouldn't reconnect or remove the cost altogether. So right now, when you leave with your bill in your name, not on the property. So this is something that I did pioneer. This is just one example, but there are many others, particularly in education. One of the things that is coming now, as it relates to the whole question of students being able to access education, is the whole question of student loans. So a comprehensive policy on that is something that I believe will add value, and we've been talking about it at the level of cabinet, at the level of senior managers, and not in the ministry, not senior managers in the ministry, but senior managers of our party, and ensuring that from a policy standpoint we promote that. There are countless others, and I could just give one example of something that I actually did. I was recommended and sent to Carriacou and Petit Martinique after Hurricane Beryl, specifically to treat with government's response to the disaster that had occurred, and to support the Honorable Tevin Andrews and his staff and team up there to deal and treat with the recovery. Now, not in all aspects it was a success, but I could tell you, particularly when it came to the question of distribution of aid, that was my specific task, and it was highly successful. And the cleanup, in addition to many other smaller tasks that I was required to do for the short stint, I think about the 2.5 months I was up there, stationed up there. And so I do not necessarily agree that I can't speak on some of the technical matters. Remember, a minister does not have to be the qualified person in a particular position, or MP. You get briefings, you can speak to people, and you yourself have common sense to be able to pick sense from nonsense. So I think it's just me ensuring that I inform the nation in my role as a PRO. And yes, I am still very aligned to the governing administration, and I ain't going nowhere. Cabinet or not, position doesn't change anything. It is your quality of service, and that is why I could be able to champion and lead the project to bring prosthetic limbs officially to Grenada, and leading that pilot project so that we could get policy out of it afterward. Okay, great. We do have another caller. Caller via WhatsApp, you're live. Go right ahead with your contribution, please.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
GT, and good morning to the Honorable Ron Readhead. GT, I'm calling not about the MP's presentation as such, but about a caller previous to Mr. Rolo, who, in my view, has no respect. Absolutely no respect. GT, she made mention of the Most Honorable Peter David, the Most Honorable this person, the Most Honorable that person, but refers to the Honorable Prime Minister as Deacon, and Deacon, and Deacon, and Deacon. GT, when your callers call and they have no respect, I think as host, it's your responsibility to cut them off. Will you have a nice day?
Thank you, caller. Have a good day yourself. MP, we due for a break. Let's take it. When we come back, we get into another segment of the program. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back after the break. Don't touch your dial. Stay with us, folks. It's to the point. We'll be right back.
They come from near, they come from far. Once a year, Grenada holds its breath as the best athletes from our secondary schools converge on the Kirani James Athletic Stadium for a special moment in time. Intercall, 90 events, 24 schools, 3 days, 2 champions to be crowned. Intercall 2026, March 17th to the 19th. It's more than just about medals. It's about school pride. It's your legacy. on the line. Intercall 2026. Come, be part of history. Join the coverage live on GBN Television, the home of Intercall 2026.
GBN's broadcast of Intercall 2026 is made possible by Answer Coating, Grenville Credit Union, Rise and Shine Supermarket, Grenada Paper Products, Grenlec, the National Training Agency, Banfields, Rush Distributors, Innovair Air Conditioning Units, Flow, Echo Motors, Barry's Engineering, and Grenada Development Bank.
Grenada, listen up. This one hits different. On Saturday, March 14, it's going down at the Roy St. John's playing field in Tantine with Grenada Autofest. More than cars. Go head to head with vintage, antiques, and classics. Bikes, Jeeps, Land Rovers, and custom-built machines. All battling for $50,000 in cash and prizes. It's more than a car show. It's a family day. Look out for go-kart racing and bouncy castles. And we climax with Sakina and the Alpha One Band. Plus a special surprise. It's Grenada Auto Fest. Saturday, March 14. It's a vibe you can't miss. Lock the date. Special thanks to our partners, Waggity Rental, True Blueberry Resorts, On The Spot Hardware, and all our category prize sponsors.
There can only be one champion. Thursday, March 12th, 2026, the Karani James Athletic Stadium will become a battleground. 13 schools, one epic showdown. It's the Huggins Private Primary School Championship. Starting time 1 p.m. Students in uniform, $5. Children, $10. Adults, $20. Feel the tension. Hear the roar. Witness greatness as young athletes push their limits. It's the Huggins Private Primary Schools Track and Field Championship. Miss it and blame yourself.
Before the digital age, before the world moved at the speed of a click, there was a signal connecting a nation. In 1985, Discovery Television began a journey that would help shape broadcasting in Grenada. From those early days to the trusted voice you know today, Grenada Broadcasting Network. For 4 decades, through radio and television, we have informed, inspired, and connected our nation. Your stories, your voices, your moments. One nation, one network.
Welcome back to our listeners. Welcome back to our viewers once again. It's 15 minutes moving up before the top 10. And we have a bit of an open, not a bit, but a bit of an open conversation this morning where we encourage our listeners and viewers, of course, have the opportunity to, of course, ask direct questions to, of course, our representative in studio this morning. We go back to the phone line. We do have another caller. Caller via WhatsApp, you're live. Good morning and welcome. WhatsApp caller, you're live. Guess we lost that caller. Let's go to our caller via caller. Good morning. Direct line. You're live.
Morning, call JT.
Good morning to you. You're live.
I just want to say good morning to the Honorable Ron Readhead. And I want to say talk about that lady what haven't got no respect for calling Deacon Mitchell.
Caller, we don't want to get into that basic back and forth about that. One caller mentioned it, but I just think we could just move on that for now. All right, let's move on that. Let's go to another caller. Caller via WhatsApp, you're live. Good morning to you. WhatsApp caller, you're live. I'm not sure what's happening there this morning. We do have it. WhatsApp caller, you are live. Good morning and welcome. Caller via WhatsApp. Good morning, please. Go right ahead, please. You're live.
You know, Brother Ron, I do believe that the Prime Minister firing you, that was a big mistake. Even firing Jonathan Lackert, I think it was a big mistake also. I think it made the party weaker because you two guys was young and upcoming and you guys were vibrant and on fire. And to me, I believe, you're putting up a good face, but I still believe that the party could have been stronger with you guys doing all the work. But I need to go back to that project, Brother Ron, that same 500. And that doesn't go to me at all. Now just look at the figures, right? I hear one of the podcasters that boasts and say he's employing.
Somewhere I think we may have lost the caller there. I'm not sure if it's a connection issue, but we may have to move on. Let's go to another caller. Caller, you're live. We lost that caller also. Still a little bit of issues in terms of the connections this morning. Let's try this caller again via WhatsApp. WhatsApp caller, you're live. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, GT.
Good morning to you. Go right ahead, please.
Morning.
Family. Yeah. Okay, my question going to be based on Cuba, right? Because I've been listening to a lecture with Dr. Gonzal, and he was speaking about the trouble that goes in Cuba and what's happening in Cuba right now. So then I want to ask you, Brother Ron, what plans that Grenada have for Cuba, because they're going through a really hard time. And one of the thing that Dr. Ralph spoke about, he said we could send our stuff through Canada to get to Cuba, you know what I mean? Because when I see the devastation happening in Cuba right now is really heartbreaking. And my second question to you, and it's really quick. I've been getting a lot of calls from supporters of NDC, and they want to know, excuse me, okay, we in the first quarter of the year, and they want to know when you're going to have a town hall or a meeting, and they want it in St. Patrick's. So these are my questions. Have a beautiful day, you too, gentlemen.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
Thanks, caller. Just briefly, so rapid fire. As it relates to the Cuba issue, yes, we continue to be concerned with the people of Cuba in terms of their safety during this difficult situation. The region has agreed, at least in the recent CARICOM meeting, that aid will be sent. And so just now, I can't speak to specifics, but shipment or two have gone out to our students over in Cuba. I can speak of that. And again, as mentioned earlier on, we do have the whole question of the plan to evacuate, the evacuation plan, if necessary, or if it becomes that way. We definitely would like to see a peaceful Cuba. We definitely would like to see a peaceful region, Caribbean and Latin American region. Me personally, I want to say to our Caribbean and Latin American leaders, do not let this particular situation divide us. Let us stay united. We live amongst each other physically in terms of landmass in the region, and therefore we need to cooperate and work with each other. Do not let division take root.
Okay, we do have another caller. Caller, you're live. Go right ahead, please, with your contribution.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Right, I know there's no perfection in the human domain. And thus far, the government basically shown that the manifesto, what they campaign on, that over 80% been fulfilled somewhat. Ron, and this one is to Ron, what would you say, Minister Ron, because I have to have respect for you, what would you say, or can you say that if there's anything that you think as an administration or you personally that you should improve in as a government?
Thank you, caller.
Yeah, caller, thanks very much. One thing I would say, we probably need to improve in communication a little more. And communication not in the sense of just telling people or saying to the nation what we are doing and so on, but communication for very simple things, right? How the public service interacts with the public itself, how the public interacts with the public service. Many a times people would say they're calling different ministries, they can't get answers, etc. This is something I think we need to enhance. So whether it is we need to invest in technology to answer phones, I wouldn't say we're getting to that point, but it is something that we desperately need to communicate, because oftentimes people's challenges can be avoided or averted if there is better communication as to how they could access resources, how they could access help, and how the state could help them.
All right, we do have another caller via WhatsApp. You're live. Good morning, welcome.
Yes, good morning, GT.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Readhead.
Morning, sir.
And even if I said Ron Readhead, it will not be disrespect. That's your name. Although, to an extent, there is an attitude problem in some cases that could reflect and indicate something otherwise. But, Mr. Readhead, I'm glad it's not only I that noticed that demarcation of responsibility and principle relative to utterances that belongs or doesn't belong to a person's responsibility. This is why one of the callers made mention of something I've made at least twice relative to you on that particular station. But there's another thing. You mentioned the whole issue of the offenders registry doesn't necessarily apply only to, so it's not pertinent only to people who go to jail. We're talking about people who are sex offenders and who could be an intimidating fearful situation to the public and the general population. Now, take note of something. You're saying that whole issue of because Grenada is a small place, it becomes difficult to establish a thing like that.
No, I am not saying that this is a position. I am saying this was a conversation that was had. This is something that has been discussed at the regional level. There is a particular group of legislations where the sex offenders registry is a part of it. This is what I'm saying. I'm saying to you that the concern that was raised generally was the smallness of our societies and the implications it could have and how it could distort from getting actual justice, right? It is not for me. I'm just putting it out there. So, just for clarity, I am not saying that is a position. So you could go ahead. Sorry.
But I understand. But listen, there are sex offenders relative to that whole issue. That when they come from jail, the judge tell them they cannot go back. For example, in the house where the issue, the offense might have taken place, or even the village, they are banned from it. Who gives the magistrate or the judge the authority to do that? And if that is the situation, then that is a clear indication that the thing could work, right? Because the judges sometimes forbid the people who are offended, who have done the offense, to go back to the village where that incident happened. So, at least that's a start. And for the longest while, women especially have been clamoring for that. So I think it's something that should be considered deeply. And you've been a part of parliament and not cabinet. You have a right to even table a bill, or you have the ability to table a bill. And it has nothing to do with party. It has to do with responsibility as representing the people of Grenada. Take care, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks very much. I don't know if I necessarily need to rehash it, but I think, I would like to hear probably more views on that because we do need criminal justice reform. We do need reform in general as it relates to that. But this is something that was out there, but I'm just speaking to the, I would say, efficacy of that specific policy.
Okay, great. We do have another caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Good morning.
Mr. Readhead. Good morning, sir. And how are you? Mr. Readhead, I'm asking you about the people with the share in cable and wireless. Since they sell the shares, the people that buy the shares in cable and wireless is not getting any dividend from it. The people who have small shares in electricity haven't gotten any dividend. Could you give me some kind of advice and some kind of idea about it, please?
All right.
Okay, caller.
Thanks, caller. I may not be able to specifically speak to the shares issue about cable and wireless and Glen, but what I can say to you is that where you purchase the shares, more than likely you'll have to go to a brokerage company to be able to set up an account to purchase shares. So I think you should return to the company which you purchase the shares from.
Okay, we do have another caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, GT, and good morning, Representative Ron Readhead.
Yeah.
And to the listeners and the viewers. Now, I must confess I wasn't listening to the program.
Yeah. So we are asking you to be very brief too, please.
Yeah, so I just want, please, let me please. With the situation in the world, with the unfolding, ever-escalating, broadening of conflict in West Asia, I don't see it Middle East, West Asia. What is the government and the party have any intention of helping people to understand what's unfolding? Because people have to rely basically on BBC and so on. And a lot of the information that is coming out is on truth. So the sort of relaxed people seem to be sleeping. We need to be waking up our people so that we can respond adequately, better than we did with COVID. So I'm concerned that, there's no much from the government or the party point of view from helping people to understand and to be able to have a good idea what is unfolding and what responsibility they would have to bear coming out of that. Thanks.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
I think the caller, GT, raised a very important point. Now, actively, the party is at the leadership level having active conversations over this particular situation and the potential economic impact that it will have for Grenada and the region. The issue as it relates right now to what response we should do is somewhat early for an immediate response. I think what we need to do, and the caller is right, raise the awareness. We are living in unpredictable, uncertain times. We have no control over if wars break out or not. What we have to do and have the control over is how we operate. So, for example, even the consumption patterns of our citizens may have to change just in case we may not be able to get a steady supply of X or Y good. So we need to think about those eventualities, and we need to be real in these times. I often say when COVID-19 came, the NDC at the time, which was the main opposition party, did not sort to play politics. We got down on the ground, we gave out masks, we actually started producing and do the things that could help support. I would ask for this opposition to do the same, not with playing politics and trying to talk as if election is calling in the morning, but trying to come up with genuine solutions. You have been there for a long time, and this is a call probably to Dr. Mitchell. He's been around for a very long time in politics, so I would actually like to hear his position on some of these things, and if he does have a recommendation from a senior statesman standpoint. Uncle Tilly as well. You have former ministers of finance throughout the country, and therefore what we need is the best minds throughout Grenada to give the support. I'm not saying that those names that I call are the best minds. I'm just saying that this requires an all-inclusive approach as it relates to this external factor that is on our doorsteps.
Okay, we do have another caller via WhatsApp. You're live. Let's hear from you.
Brother Warren, just 10 seconds, GT. Okay, concerning Cuba again, based on what Dr. Ralph Gonzalez was saying, right? He said that Jamaica was sending back Cuban doctors and the nurses, and some of the other Caribbean countries is considering doing the same. What is Grenada's position? Thank you. Thanks again, GT.
Thank you.
Well, presently, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs did put out a release on this specific matter very early up when the issue of the radar and all these other things were on the radar. And so it was clear that we did not have a signed program with the Cuban government, and therefore we were able to address some of the concerns that were raised at the time. At this present moment, I would be very frank to say that I cannot speak to the issue further than what was released. I don't have any information.
Okay, great. We do have another caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning to UGT and your guests.
Good morning, Susan.
I want to raise a concern. Two gentlemen previous to me raised a concern about Ron Readhead being on the program, and he actually suggesting that he doesn't have the capacity or he should not be there. For my knowledge, and GD, please correct me if I'm wrong, the program that you host on a Tuesday and on a Wednesday, one is for the opposition, one is for the government. But as far as I remember, the government uses the program as government, and also the party that takes the government into office. So do the opposition in the official capacity as the opposition, and party members come on. My thing is, why is this concern being raised? Ron is not off place. He's a part of the NDC. He's a member of parliament, and I think he has sufficient information. He may not be able to address all of the questions that are being put forward as it relates to the executive, but I think he's pretty well informed as to what is happening in the country as a member of parliament. So I don't understand what is the hullabaloo that two seemingly intelligent individuals are raising. It's very unfortunate. Thank you and have a good morning.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate your contribution this morning. We do have just about a minute or so left.
Yeah, sure.
Anything you want to jump in before we take a wrap this morning? I think we may have exhausted all the calls for this morning already.
Hopefully we get more time in next time. Yeah, but definitely, GT, thanks. Again, we have a post-cabinet briefing coming up at 10 a.m. The Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Legal Affairs, Consumer Affairs will be on. She will be discussing some consumer affairs issues, so at 10 a.m. GIS, tune in. The NDC, in collaboration with Prime Minister in his capacity as Minister of Information, has designated the month of March to be the month of health care, and therefore we have started. GIS has been promoting a lot of healthcare conversations. The Minister of Health was on the staple program, DMs with PM, speaking to some health issues. More announcements will be made during the course of this month that is going to help benefit the whole conversation around health. We now have a new mammogram system for the first time nationally, state-owned, and so this is going to augur well for a lot of women in terms of their health care as it relates to that. And finally, I would just say that we have the NDC Youth Army elections coming up on the 29th of March. We are seeking to mobilize a dedicated generation of young people to contribute and continue to fight for diversifying, transforming Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique.
Everyone, I want to thank you once again. I could say Ron, right?
Yeah.
I want to thank you once again. I want to thank you once again for coming on the program this morning. Of course, we tried it a bit different this morning, and I think it's worked. So from time to time, we certainly have sessions like this where we give our listeners more opportunities to interact with you directly and ask their questions. I think it was a bit fruitful this morning. We did that. So thank you once again. Best wishes for the rest of the day. And of course, I know there's lots that you have to do. So I know you're on the move again. And
congratulations to GBN. I think you're celebrating 40 years.
Yes. Thank you so much. Hey, folks, that's what we're going to take a wrap for today's edition of To The Point. I want to thank all the listeners and viewers who contributed. Thank you so much. Have a good one, folks. That's where we say goodbye for today's edition.